Okay, so hello everybody. Just started rolling, so nobody's here yet. And I think, until there's a conversation happening, it kind of makes most sense to talk about my own experiences. Now, in this way, I don't have many, but I do have a few. And then, uh, and then, yeah. Um, so, um, I was just thinking about, some things I have upcoming, and one of them is not this coming week, but the one after. Um, Going to like a expo thing where I guess there's going to be different places that are looking for volunteers at it. So, kind of curious about that. Um, and within that whole week, there may be more than one thing happening. Rather, but so I know about. Um, but yeah, so basically, when I was young, um, I didn't really do that much volunteering. I mean, I was in extracurricular activities. I was in school, and then when I was in high school, I was working. So I mean, that wasn't really volunteering, and I can't think if there was any other volunteering that I did do. Sorry, the pillows are a little bit. Yeah, that's better. I would have to be slid back because the other ones were falling behind it. Um, yeah, I didn't really do that much up until that point. Actually, I should. There's one thing that comes to mind though. Other than possibly helping my dad out at his work, but I don't. I mean, most of the time, the one job that I would have probably had more of an opportunity to do that with. That's a lot of people. Was the one that he had while I was in school, pretty much, like during my school days. And he volunteered in my schools actually a bit, or at least my first couple of schools before my grade school. I mean, I was only in my grade school 2.5 years when he passed away. But I almost forgot that one of the ones I did was at a learning disabilities association, essentially. Uh, and that can be people with ADHD and autism spectrum mostly. And I worked in there, or I volunteered in their literacy department. Um, or I feel like I volunteer helped tutor, but it was very brief. Um, but I also helped kind of fold, although doing a bunch of that, even when you don't have arthritis and, a lot of touching paper and folding, it can get a little tedious. But folding brochures, really, and putting them in the racks or whatever. It was not in the town I lived in, but it wasn't far. Um, I almost also forgot that 1 or 2 years, I mean, most of the time I was actually a participant in the summer camps, but as I got a bit older, I volunteered at some summer camps, or at a summer camp. I wasn't a paid staff, and they did have a number of paid staff. Sometimes I'd just come in and do music. Other times I kind of helped them with other activities that they were doing, which was pretty much just kind of doing them along with them. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot there to do. Um, there was another one that I almost came to. Oh, well, when my dad passed, my mother worked um, at a place that I think offered counseling, but they also um, offered things for seniors and people with disabilities, and I guess it was a community, like a town information center essentially. But honestly, I think why I went there, I don't think it was when I was in high school because I worked, like I say, then, and I was a bit older. although felt feels like I was. But no, I went there so often after my grade school days. I think because I don't remember my dad being there after school. Like there's somebody on our street. He meets his sons. The dad does mostly meets his one or both sons every day at the bus and walks them there every day. And the funny part about it is every now and then I'll notice that the bus drops the kid off at the corner and then comes down the street they live on anyway. And I think it seems like they know the family because I think I've seen it parked out front a couple of times. Maybe they're thinking, oh, the kid just needs to get exercise anyway. And I've noticed, they've been kind of playing in the front yard a bit more and cutting the grass today. And that I just happened to notice because I was also outside. Um, Anywho, but yeah, so I don't remember when he was a. I mean, you know what it may have been? It may have been, even though at times I had babysitters or workers after school, and sometimes I'd just go into a room and do homework, um, or I'd count receipts. It was something I used to do with a typewriter. Really, actually, back in the day, I don't remember much about it. Um, and Sometimes I'd just visit with the people there, to be honest. But yeah, I think maybe it was sometimes my dad was working and mother was working, and either I didn't want to or they didn't want me to be at home alone at that age. Um, I volunteered at a museum the other day. We were actually talking with somebody who was retired from working in a museum, and maybe there could have still been an opportunity for her to connect us with somebody. I only knew her first name, and she wasn't even from the neighborhood. It was kind of a neighborhood event, but she knew somebody that was putting it on, and it was actually maybe the alternate from the other time, maybe alternate sites. But um, so I mean, and I didn't. We talked with some of the people there, but we didn't really otherwise know them. Although she's had a bit of a conversation with me and seemed to enjoy that. So, but it's not super close by, and I don't know if there'd be a safe place for my bike. And winter's coming, and I can't bike in the winter, and I don't drive, and I don't like the bus. But if I was working, I could possibly pay for a cab. But sometimes you hear stories. I don't know if I'd want to do that. Um, but uh, but a museum job would be kind of cool. And I did volunteer in one once. Um, One of the main things I did was spinning cotton candy. I also did some face painting, not greatly, but I did, and I had a um, really good reference from two of those things. But then, as I got older, one of them wanted to say that, well, she didn't really know me as an adult, so there'd probably be someone better to ask. Sometimes those things can be hard to references can be hard to acquire. Luckily, some people do seem to accept, or some places do seem to accept a character like a you know I guess from a friend or family. I don't know. Um, but yeah, then I've worked and then I've not worked. I feel like there's been more volunteering things I've done as an adult, but except when I can't think of what they were. Oh well, yeah, a theater festival. That one should have jumped out better because I've been doing it for a number of years. Um, I want to say there's been a couple other like, yeah, maybe there hasn't been a ton. I mean, I guess at the hamper thing, I helped out a little bit occasionally, but they had a lot of people and a lot of regular volunteers, so they didn't really need it very much. Um, but a lot of us, and some of them probably did it well, whether they thought that it was needed or not, because they wanted things to move quicker. They wanted to get through the line and get stuff and go. Um, and I get that a little bit, but they also maybe wanted to be helpful. I would never forget there was one time a lady I mean, maybe she's used to lugging kids around, and I'm not saying anything about her gender. I'm just saying that she didn't come across as a lady that would be really physically, you know, active or able. And she was wearing like a cultural outfit, and she was talking on her phone and taking stuff. And I just thought that that was like a little dance. I just thought that that was kind of interesting. So yeah, I unfortunately have not had more than about 10 minutes worth of volunteer experience to speak of. So it would have been really nice if somebody else had been here to talk about theirs. I mean, I might do another one about this later when I after I've been to that event and gathered some stuff from it. Um, but I might wait until after I've been to the thingy, um, or after I've maybe applied at some places. I mean, there's a part of me that still feels I need the income, but then I'm also getting other checks. Um, and a couple people have put it as a couple people have said that then you can afford to do for free because you are getting this supplement, even if it's not a lot. And I mostly agree with that thought. Not entirely, not entirely, but could like to be earning money for everything I'm doing. But having my disability struggles and that counting too is okay. Actually, I have this open on here, don't I? Oh, 9:15. Okay. Um, Now, just because part of me wants to keep rolling and have a bit of dialogue if anybody tunes in and wants to chat, um, I uh, I might add another topic into this while I'm waiting. Well, I don't know if there'd be more than one garden to umbrella. Let's see how the other ones are first. Really? Hmm. Okay. Um, some of you, um, I mean, we can certainly talk more about. Okay, you left. I'm just going to quickly read this message here. Hmm. Okay, that's really that's probably even though she's semi-physically able. Okay. The other thing I want to say on that in a general sense, kind of, it's not quite relating to this topic, but people that are looking to volunteer or want to talk about their volunteer experiences will hopefully come in and do so at some point. Um, Part of me thinking, yes, you just talked something right. I don't know exactly what that means. Um, there's a part of me that wants to say that I'm learning that the older that I get, the more you just kind of accept connections, you know, in the moment and appreciate those and like you come downstairs, may or may not be ones that last very long. Um, I'm gonna put that back in there because it's the only unedited one that went back to the inbox. Um, that we just gotta appreciate, you know, because sure you can experience it young, but when you're older, even more so, you you even more so you will have people pass away in your life, and you will experience things with connections where it's kind of like um, it becomes a little bit sometimes um, a strong feeling of uncertainty. So best not to feel that feeling as much as you can, not feel it, and just appreciate. I hate to say in the present, when people talk about being in the present, I say, well, but it's ever changing. This present moment is different than the next present moment, and I think there's also many different ways you could define it. And I think it's possibly, yeah, I just don't think it's almost like manifesting. I would say, but yeah, so I would say that just kind of enjoy, connections that you have when you have them. I mean, that's not to say don't try and put effort to your connections, and don't don't you know make people feel good, and don't and to you know let people know that they're important in your life as well. Not just making people feel nice and that you don't know very well, but people that you do, and making the time for them. But it is hard because the closer you get to someone and they pass away, it's a hard thing. But I'll just say I experienced reaching back out to somebody, them getting back to me the next morning, um, in like four different emails in reply to the same one for some reason. Um, and most of what she said, I didn't mind. And I had explained a little bit about the situation actually, um, in other videos in a as kind as possible anonymous way, um, and even wrote a song a little bit about it. And there's still a part of me that's surprised to be able to see it as a joke, but I can I um, and basically yeah, that's the way we're talking, but I don't think she's asked how I've been either. Actually, there's a wording on the last part of her email which is especially odd to me. I don't know if I really want to talk about it, but it is odd. I might talk to G about it. Haven't really talked about this person since he saw her last, but yeah. Uh, I'm gonna try and distract myself with some other things now. I think, but I didn't feel like it that time. I don't want to go to the ego show. Time was nice out, but maybe this evening. Um, but okay, I've rolled for 20 minutes. That's not a long time to get people in here and chatting, but maybe the be afterwards. Um, I don't really have anything else to say on the topic, and I had a brief distraction. I'm surprised this hasn't actually been a bit longer, but um, so, and actually a couple other distractions that we've had today too, running into a neighbor that's having a yard sale and that kind of stuff, and the play parking lot with the dogs. It is 12 o'clock, but I'm kind of surprised it's not 1 or 2, to be honest. That's just kind of what time it is currently. But anyway, all right. Well, I guess I'll wrap up. Um, I was realizing that even though I've got a bunch of stuff coming up, some of it's still not next week, but the week after. And there's not a whole lot that I need to do ahead of time. I could think a little bit about, what I might want to share with the workshop, but we're also going to probably be doing kind of different group work and getting handouts and stuff too in that. But I could see. I know that there's one thing that I think that for the most part I should hold back with, but we'll see kind of where things go with that. And then the other thing is just walking around, gathering pamphlets, and hopefully finding some worthwhile things to get involved in. And then the other thing, you know, it's cool. It's not nothing you have to do to prep for that. And then the thing at the end of this week. So, but yeah, whether to kind of on this other topic that kind of distracted me, whether to reconnect with someone from your past or not, whether it's a good idea or not, it's really hard to say. It's really hard to say. Like if you find forgiveness, a lot of people say that forgiveness is for yourself. I mean, not necessarily that you've done anything wrong, but just that it's, for your own well being to not hold on to things. I mean, I think time helps with that. And I think, also just kind of saying that, you know, like you may still not wish to interact with somebody or to, you know, be closely connected to somebody. And if you were around them, you may still ignore them. But to kind of, you know, just tell yourself that you're not gonna hold on to the feelings and ruminate and get you know whatever about them. I think is a very powerful thing. But that does not necessarily mean I can understand the desire, but it does not necessarily mean that you have to, like I say, reconnect. Um, Again, I don't know whether to tell people that they should or they shouldn't because we all go through these kind of things sometimes, right? Um, I mean, because sometimes I'm sure it would go great, other times it may not. Um, and it's kind of interesting to think about how people kind of come in and out of our life and come back into our life sometimes, and that's we could talk about it a little bit here perhaps, but it's and I don't know if there's really all that much to say about it unless until anybody else says anything about it. Um, so because mostly it hasn't happened much in my life other than this person and someone else I was kind of referring to in one of the other recent video, but But that was just kind of, I ran into her and stupidly did not ask for a way of staying in touch like I'd been wanting to, because I was kind of surprised to run into her, and I guess distracted, and it had been a tiring day, and I just wasn't on the ball enough to think to do so, and it may have been a little bit with of that with her, and she also had a neurological condition of some sort. I can't remember if I knew what it was called, where she was really sensitive to bright lights, and had to actually quit her job. She wore special sunglasses, and then she had to quit her job. I don't think she went blind, but all I think I knew is that it was a neurological thing. Plus, the other thing too is that I'd known her from an agency that she used to work at. I mean, she didn't anymore, and I didn't, and I'm sure we could have, figured out a way to say, would you like to be in touch and stay in touch? Okay, between us, you know. But maybe that's just not something she does, because then, even with the best of intentions, you can say, sure, yeah, I won't tell anybody, but you might, but is it that terrible? Especially when she doesn't work there anymore. And I wasn't as phased out from the place by then, but I kind of was. This was what, 3 years ago, I think, 3 or 4 years ago, maybe. Anywho, but yeah. Okay, well, I started off at least on the topic of the volunteering thing. I don't really have anything else to say. So there's only been a couple flashes at the top, but they haven't really sat long enough to really get into this, and to, I feel, truly decide if it would be something that they'd want to watch, and I'm someone they'd want to talk with. But if they feel like they made that decision, or had a distraction, or the device died, because they passed away for some reason, so that's fine. I'm gonna go do other stuff now, and one thing I might do this week, I will say this as somebody just tunes in, welcome. I haven't been rolling super long, but I am curious how you came across the channel, and if it's your first time, if you'd like to say. But other than that, I did just get an idea, and I'd also like to. Okay, yeah. But I'll put this in here for anyone who sees this afterwards, because this isn't going to be, much more than half an hour, if even quite half an hour. Um, but I mean, I'm always fairly aware, and I've always kind of keep my eyes open for things, but in a creative writing sense, not as much as I maybe could. I still don't know. I mean, obviously, lots of people do get books published and that, whether it's digital or otherwise. I still don't know if I understand the process, if it's all that expensive or not, yada yada. But at least, well, and but if even if I was taking people's topic or theme suggestions and then getting very personal about it, I mean, I don't know. It's the kind of thing when you putting things on the internet, but I think that we should be on both sides of things okay to receive inspiration, and ideas or concepts, but to completely copy someone else's work. Not only is it actually kind of illegal, I mean, cover songs are one thing, but like written, you know, and calling it your own. I mean, we know what that's called. The things that how that's viewed. It's not very nice. I mean, to do that. I mean, sure, it can be the easy way to, and maybe you really strongly relate to the material, but I still say, let it inspire you. And we all have creativity and a voice. We might think, oh, but I'm not really much of a writer. Well, most of us express ourselves in writing, at least sometimes online, and if not, it's a skill that should be kind of honed and worked with, and even if you don't plan to publish. So again, it can inspire you, but only that, I would say. But what I wanted to ask is if anybody has any suggestions for themes, topics, or would like to collaborate, because then that is a great way, especially if you don't consider yourself to be much of a creative writer, where you can, you know, share the credit, and it can just be really cool to fuse two people's creativities together, or more than two, but two is a pretty good number. So yes, if you have any ideas, let me know. Now, for writing in general, but I actually was kind of thinking more specifically poetry. Not necessarily, and this is a little bit unfortunate, but there's an event when I first moved to where I live, like 18 years ago or whatever. There was an event that I used to go to. I can't remember where they did it then, but now they do it not super far from me. Again, in the winter, since it'd be harder to bike in the winter. Um, it may be, and I don't like winter that much, but I mean sometimes you have to go out. But it'd be harder to get to, but it's not winter yet, and it's not far. And I've went in there with my bike before, so the only thing is I was hoping to lead some groups there, and I found out that it's not that cheap, even if you're wanting to do it monthly. Um, Either that or the person just didn't explain it well. But so that was disappointing because um, especially as a support group, it's kind of like, it shouldn't, that's a good thing that you shouldn't have to pay much to do. Because certain agencies they don't, but they're funded by the government. But anywho, um, so it's nearby, but they I don't think they give people they've shortened it by a minute, and what it was before then, I think almost anybody would struggle to get a full piece of poetry read in the amount of time that they give each person. I don't know how many people they get at this thing because I haven't been in ages, but it's a little bit disappointing because it's fairly accessible to me, but it doesn't feel worth it. I mean, sure, I could go to enjoy the other people and what they're sharing and what they're reading too, but it doesn't feel worth it to like I would want to share as well, and it just I don't know, you know, you'd have enough time to get up there and sit down and read a few short lines, and that would be that. Um, but I might. So I guess I feel mixed about getting into like writing poetry or writing in general for these reasons. But there's a part of me that would like to, and that has enjoyed doing so in the past. So um, I mean, if I find other open mics, maybe, well, then it's just like 2 minutes more. But sometimes, like one I used to do, but you got three songs. So essentially, you got like 15 to, well, I guess if the song is 6, 12, 15 to 18 to 20 minutes on stage. Um, but again, these things are hard to, for the reasons mentioned. Um, they may not be all that close by, but so YouTube is the way to do it. It seems like when I say that, for me anyway. So let's make it worth it. Be a good audience and show your appreciation and you know share your kind thoughts. It may not always be asking for feedback, but yeah, I appreciate those that do so. Whether it's in the live chat or afterwards, it's any content creator would. I mean, Um, but yeah, as far as this topic, I mean, if there's any, as far as like the topic in the title, if there's anything you'd like to share about, your volunteering, okay, you left. Um, but yeah, okay, bye. Take care. Wrap it up.